Hi, this is Tiffany Howell doing my video essay questions for Chapter 9, which is summarize the steps for muscle contraction, begin with the nerve impulses reaching the axon terminal, and end with the re-energizing of myosin after a single power stroke. The first step is the nerve impulse is received by the dendrites of the neuron, is processed in the cell body, and then it is sent down the axon terminal of a motor neuron. For step 2, the nerve impulse arrives at the axon terminals, or after the nerve impulse arrives at the axon terminals, acetylcholine is stimulated, and in return is released, and it enters the synaptic cleft as it travels across, which then leads to acetylcholine binding with ACH receptors on the motor end plate of the muscle cell, which then causes an electrical signal to contract. For step 4, the T-tubules will send the signal deep into the muscle cell, which then has an action potential move across the membrane, and it depolarizes it. For step 5, when the depolarization reaches the sarcoplasmic reticulum, it receives the signal to release calcium. For step 6, as the calcium is released, it will bind to the troponin, and in return this is removing the tropomyosin and troponin complex that was once blocking the myosin binding site. It now removes it so it can become actin. That is also known as a cross bridge. For step 7, after the cross bridge is made, the myosin heads that have become activated by the hydrolysis of ATP will then bind to the actin, and then it will pull the thin filament toward the center of the sarcomere. And during this process, this is when the muscle is contracting. For step 8, when the contracting is done, a new ATP will come along and it'll bind, when then the myosin heads will then release from the actin. This is also meaning that calcium is also being stopped from being released from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. When the calcium stops being released, this is also when the muscle starts to relax, which leads into step 9, in which when the hydrolysis of the new ATP then has the myosin heads recock, and they're waiting for another round of attaching and pulling.